doing something dodgy or
So
stealing.
what can you do about it? Because you guys are the future leaders, or you guys are going to be making policy in the futures. What do you want to see? How do you think we're going to tackle that?
Yeah, I think it's not just me or Liam, it's lots of people in the community uniting together. But I do believe that, it's like
people who's watching, they will look at us and they're looking for a hope. They want to see how to stop, but they want to see these young people are against it as well. No, not just everybody saying, okay, we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, no.
What kind of hope can you give it to those parents?
I think one huge thing is making, there's the whole thing about teachers, role models and all of that, making sure that it's not an okay thing to aspire to or to be part of. But I think the other thing is, like, it's an economy. You're tackling that economy and you're offering better alternatives. Now, if a child makes up in mind that actually I can sell this, make some profits, I take a risk, but I make some money and it's quite cool, I can get that car, I can get this, and I can have lots of disposable cash by the end of it, they'll do it. But if well, not everybody, but there's a chance they'll take it up. But actually, if there's careers in, like if places like Canary Wharf became more accessible to them, then they can pursue those careers, make more money, have really respectable jobs, and it's not just private sector. I'm talking about NHS, council, government. That means that we encourage kids to take a path that's really productive and, allow them to have careers so, they don't end up in jail, so they don't end up with criminal histories. Because some of these kids make these mistakes or do these things when they're young and it affects them for the rest of their life. So I think it's us creating more jobs, working with businesses, public sector, private sector, third sector.
Can I come to Liam? Liam, I've also worked with lots of young kids and lots of fathers too, from a father's group point. What happens is, like, when I talk to young people, they think some of them they don't have any hope for the future or job. They'll say, I've got a degree, I won't find a job because it's not accessible. And another thing what puts them down is, I think, like every day if you read a Mirror or other tablets, they're talking about Muslims are terrorists, Muslims are this, Muslims are always putting them down all the time. That gives them really, it's difficult to try and saying, we're not going to be here for too long. Looks like, that's how bad it looks. So you're from a different community. What would you say to those kids? Well, look, this is just the headlines, not all about you. It's about some other thing.
As best as you can, you can't ignore it because it's all over. It's getting shoved in your face all the time. So you've got to like take it with a pinch of salt and fight back against it, but in like a positive way. So rather than fighting against it by just blocking out the rest of the world, as cheesy as this sounds, go out and prove everyone wrong. But that takes.
But sometimes it's not easy to ignore it because it is in your face all the time. Just pointing. We're not involved in it and just saying it's something nothing to do here. Probably something happening in Syria, but it's still pointing at you here. You're one of them. You're doing that. You're this, and the young man seeing that what's going on here. Like suspicious all the time. So I don't know. It's not fair on those kids, man. I don't know.
It's not fair at all. But what I'd say is, look at Irish people. So my dad was telling me when he was growing up in South London, he used to hang around with the Caribbean, the black kids, because they were both shunned by everyone else. Like no dogs, no blacks, no Irish was up on the thing, and he used to get called a Paddy, a Mick, and so he was getting it at the time. But Irish people now, they don't get the same. They don't get this, so they fought against it, and it goes. But you have to go out there and fight against it. You've got to go out there and prove people wrong.
And you guys are tough, man. Irish also you don't mess with them. You don't mess with these guys.
You are tough. I've seen lots of tough Muslim Bengali folk around here.
I mean, I think, like, if we look back at some of the things that is positive, I think lots of the positive things are smeared with negative light in Tower Hamlets. Like if you think about it, there's lots of jobs created. Sometimes some people will be like, lots of Bangladeshis work in restaurants or. That just basically means lots of them are entrepreneurial. They set up businesses. Like if you look at, if you're talking religiously about the institutions, there's so many well-developed mosques, Islamic centres, and all of this that support the community. I think that's a sign of resilience, but also of communities seeking to establish themselves. Youth projects that I think lots of communities in the East End, particularly in Tower Hamlets, are really civically engaged. Right? They really get stuck in, like also politically engaged. And I think it's just more of this would allow, you know, like you were there when you guys were fighting off the racists and those fascists, and then lots of that died off, and now it's about moving into the next phase, which is meaning, you know, like we're seeing lots of people being elected from different backgrounds, which is really important. It changes the way things are perceived and dealt with. The more and more like businesses that are run by members of the community locally, more that work for that in the NHS and the doctors, and all of this brings about gradually but massive, significant change.
Yeah.